So Judge Bonitz struck down the California assault weapon ban and found it unconstitutional, but now the Ninth Circuit has an emergency motion in front of them, and the emergency motions panel is set to decide if they want to extend the stay on the current decision of Judge Bonitz. And that decision needs to come by the end of this week. So let's talk about what's going on and why this is important. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think bans on so-called assault weapons is clearly unconstitutional, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also want to mention that we have channel merch available. Right now we have these hoodies available, the Text, History, and Tradition hoodies. You can find it at TriStar Trading Co. I will leave a link to them down below. We just got these in, check them out. I know a lot of us, when it comes time for winter and the fall season, we switch to hoodies, and then we also switch to carrying more full-size firearms, which is also awesome. So again, check out the hoodies. I will leave a link down below if you're interested. So like I mentioned in the intro, Judge Bonitz, or Saint Bonitz as he's known in California, struck down the California ban on so-called assault weapons last week. This was a huge win for California gun owners and set the stage for an important battle that's currently going on right now in the Ninth Circuit. Judge Bonitz, in his decision, issued a 10-day stay on the enforcement of that order, and the battle right now has started in the Ninth Circuit about whether or not that current stay that he put in place should be extended while this case is being appealed. The stay that Judge Bonitz put on his own decision is set to terminate on October 29th, and the state of California is now trying frantically to get that stay extended. The state of California has already filed an appeal up to the Ninth Circuit and has filed for an emergency motion for a stay pending appeal, and also they are seeking an administrative stay, so two different stays that they are requesting. The stays requested from California, again, are two different mechanisms, so we need to talk about what is going on and then also where this case goes from here. The Miller case was originally heard in the Southern District of California, a federal court, and their federal court judge, Judge Roger T. Bonitz, issued his decision on the original review and essentially struck down the case on a motion for summary judgment. After his original decision, the state of California appealed it up to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit did grant the appeal, but then the Miller case sat on hold at the Ninth Circuit level. The Miller case was put on hold because of a backlog of other cases that were making their way through the Ninth Circuit and then also the Supreme Court. Primarily, there was the Supreme Court decision that was pending, which was the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen case. And so a bunch of cases were on hold until the Supreme Court issued that decision. I also want to point out here that the Miller case never actually made it to the Ninth Circuit 3-judge panel for a hearing on the merits of the appeal. The only review that ever took place in the Ninth Circuit in the Miller case was before a 3-judge panel, and that review involved whether or not the panel there would ultimately just remand the case back down to Judge Bonitz after Bruen, or whether or not they wanted to continue to hear the case and then move it forward on an actual merits decision. Ultimately, the 3-judge panel in Miller decided to send the case back down to Judge Bonitz after Bruen. And this is kind of in contrast to the Duncan magazine ban case, where there was originally a granting of a preliminary injunction by the district court judge there, Judge Bonitz. Duncan eventually made its way up to an en banc panel review in the Ninth Circuit, and on review, the Ninth Circuit en banc panel sided with the state of California and upheld the California magazine ban. And then what ended up happening in that case is the case did make its way up Supreme Court, but then the Duncan magazine ban case was GVR'd, grant vacated, and remanded back down to the Ninth Circuit after the Bruen decision. Also important for the context of Miller and Duncan is Duncan recently was redecided by Judge Bonitz. He struck down the magazine ban case, but the Ninth Circuit en banc panel took the case back as a comeback case and then initially issued an administrative stay and then ultimately issued a more permanent stay until they decide the appeal in the magazine ban case. Also important for this context is how the Ninth Circuit en banc panel operates. It's much different than other circuit courts. Since the Ninth Circuit is so large, 10 randomly selected judges are picked to serve on the panel, and then also the chief judge in the Ninth Circuit always serves as the 11th judge. So in the Ninth Circuit, there's kind of this random rotating en banc panel. So although we call it the Ninth Circuit en banc panel, it never is always the same judges. What can happen in the Ninth Circuit, which is a little bit different, is even after that 11-judge panel decides something, then there can be a call for the full court review, which would be a little bit more akin to a true en banc panel review that we see in other circuit courts. So again, just some procedural structure that you need to understand maybe how Duncan moves forward, and then also how this Miller case moves forward. So with all that context, what does that mean for Miller going forward? Well, Miller right now has a 10-day stay that is set to end on Sunday, October 29th. That means the stay that is currently in place will need to either be extended by Friday, October 27th, or the Ninth Circuit will need to issue some sort of administrative stay, essentially during the interim when they decide whether or not they want to issue a more permanent stay. And that's exactly what California is currently looking for. The state of California recently filed a motion for a permanent stay pending the appeal, and then also they are seeking an administrative stay. With that current looming timeline and deadline, what they want is a temporary administrative stay to essentially buy themselves some more time for the Ninth Circuit 3-judge panel, which is assigned to this case, to ultimately review the case and then decide whether or not they want to grant a more permanent stay. So what California is doing here is they are saying that even if the Ninth Circuit Emergency Motions panel denies the original request for the administrative stay, the same panel should issue a different administrative stay to give California 14 days to appeal that denial up to the en banc panel, where they're hoping that the en banc panel will be favorable, that they will get a selection of judges randomly that's more favorable to them, that will ultimately also grant the administrative stay. So you may be asking yourself, what are the rules for the emergency motions panel and who are the judges that will be on that emergency motion panel? Well, under the Ninth Circuit's rules, 3 judges are assigned to the motions panel on a rotating basis. Under the Ninth Circuit's rules, these 3 judges are assigned to the motions panel for a single month and then they rotate after that. When a motion like this pops up, it originally only goes to 2 of those judges that serve on that emergency motion panel. And then if those 2 judges are essentially agreeing on what they need to do, then they can issue the decision on their own. Also, the 3rd judge can get involved at any point if they want. If they want to get involved immediately, they can get involved and issue the decision. Typically with 2A cases in this type of high stakes situation, all 3 judges will get involved immediately. Now, back in the day, the Ninth Circuit's website would actually show you who the 3 judges are on that motions panel, which was rotating every single month. But a few years back, they removed that. So now we kind of just have to hope for a good makeup of judges, and hopefully the emergency motions panel assigned for this month is more favorable. Ultimately, in my opinion, I think that the emergency motion panel will grant the administrative stay, likely for 10 or 14 days. Then the actual 3-judge panel that's assigned to the case here, Miller, will likely grant the permanent stay while the appeal is going through the process. I will say, however, there is a sliver of hope. Because of Trump, the Ninth Circuit makeup is much closer to 50-50 pro 2A than pretty much it's ever been. So there is a chance that the stay is in fact denied by the motions panel that's assigned here. The Ninth Circuit now has amazing judges like Judge Van Dyke, Ikuda, Bumate, R. Nelson, Callahan, Lee, Breeze, and many more. All it takes is 2 of those judges to be on the emergency motions panel or the ultimate 3-judge panel that's reviewing this case, and then we would just need to get a positive decision from at least 2 of those 3 judges. I do think regardless, this case is going to make its way to the en banc panel. We're likely going to get a favorable decision from a 3-judge panel or the en banc panel in the Ninth Circuit. Probably could even make its way to a full en banc panel review by all of the judges in the Ninth Circuit eventually. But I would also point you guys to look at a different case, which is Bianchi v. Frosch, which is a case out of the 4th Circuit, and that deals with Maryland's ban on so-called assault weapons. That case was originally in front of the Supreme Court, and it was actually GVR'd back down to the 4th Circuit after Bruin. And back in December, the 4th Circuit heard oral arguments in that case, and we've just been waiting for the 4th Circuit there to issue their decision. It's been probably about over 10 months now. So regardless of what happens, I think the 4th Circuit Bianchi case is probably the case that's going to make its way up to the Supreme Court first before Miller. And then we will see maybe what Supreme Court wants to do with these so-called assault weapon cases, these bans on these rifles. I think that's probably going to be the case that is going to be a little bit more intriguing to the Supreme Court because of the prior history of it making up to them and then them also GVRing it after Bruin. So that's a case we'll definitely be watching. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what's happening currently in Miller and what we are going to be watching for this week. Again, I would suspect some sort of administrative stay or more permanent stay to be issued before the end of this week. And that's kind of the deadline right now that the Ninth Circuit is under. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I will try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and you'd like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. Also want to mention that you might want to double check your subscription. I get comments every single day that people have been unsubscribed from YouTube from watching my channel. Just double check that. Just make sure you're still subscribed to the channel because YouTube does that periodically. You might not even know. And also want to mention that about 60% of all viewers here on the channel are not actually subscribed to the channel. So consider subscribing to the channel. That actually helps the channel to grow. And then also it helps the algorithm to push these videos out to more people. But regardless, thank you guys so much for all of your support. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.